Welcome to Cyber Inspiration Podcast. My name is Evgeniy. I have been around cybersecurity for the last 20 years and I have a lot of experience working with a variety of cybersecurity vendors. My main work is vendor consulting and cybersecurity advisory for companies. As part of my passion in technology and cyber, I've been intrigued to learn how a company starts. I started the podcast to understand the thinking process and what motivated people to start their own company. This podcast is affiliated with Security Architecture Podcast. I have a pleasure today to talk to Graham about his company and his journey in cybersecurity. Can you please tell me about yourself and the company?
Sure. My name is Graham. I'm co-founder and CEO of Oso. We provide visibility and controls for security teams adopting agents aggressively. We've been around for a little over 6 years and very happy to be here.
So you mentioned agents, and I'm wondering because this show called Cyber Inspiration, so I have to deep dive to understand what was the inspiration 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, to start the company?
Sure. I spoke with the founder of the last company I worked at, a guy named Dwight. This is the founder of MongoDB. And this is like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I sat down, I had a conversation with him because I was thinking about starting my own company. And I was asking him, hey, I'm not sure if there's something specific that I want to do, blah, blah, blah. We were sort of going back and forth. And he said, look, there's different types of entrepreneurs. You have entrepreneurs where they get out of bed and they're like, I need to, if I don't solve this problem, I need to solve this problem for me, if nothing else. I don't even care whether or not it's useful to anyone else. And that's like one kind of founder. And you have like other kinds of founders. They're like, well, I had this problem at Google or Facebook or whatever, and we built this thing, and now I'm going to make that available to everyone else in the world. And that's like a different type of founder. And the reality is I'm neither of those two. And it took me a little while to sort of that's really the way people talk about founders in today's the tech today. The reality is I'm an entrepreneur that really likes technology. Like I started shoveling driveways when I was 5 years old. I tried to get my first paying job when I was 10 and a half years old, but found out that that's not legal. And so I went and spoke to my congressman about that. I started my first job on my 14th birthday, which is the earliest that you can work in the state of Massachusetts. And then sort of somewhere along the line, decided that what I wanted to do was start my own company because I thought that would give me the most fulfillment. And so I've built a career in tech, which I love. But the reality was I decided to start a company before deciding to start this company specifically.
So you're going to jump ahead. Did it give you fulfillment? Do you like what you do?
I definitely get fulfillment from it. Some days I like it and some days I don't.
We'll talk about this more. Okay, great. So you spoke and you realized you're opening a company. Now walk me through what happened next. Did you went to raise money? Did you hire people? Did you figure out which problem you want to solve? How did you realize the problem you want to solve?
Yeah, so I spent about a year at my last company thinking about different problems to work on. There's a period of time where I meaningfully explored building an electric airplane company, which did not work. I can tell you all about that sometime if you're interested. But really spending a lot of time thinking about the problem domain and finding the right people to work with. And I do remember at one point sort of like lying in bed one night with my wife and thinking does this make sense? Should I go and do that? This one particular idea I was thinking about at the time. And she was like, you're never going to have all the information that you need in order to go and do this. At a certain point, you're just going to have to decide to go and do it. And she was like, very much right. It's really hard to build enough conviction in a specific idea while you're only working on it part-time. And so once I had enough conviction in the general space and the people I was working with, I was like, all right, let's go. And so I left.
Nice. And did you start the company by yourself or with a partner?
With a co-founder.
Now, I'm guessing you're the CEO and the co-founder is the CTO, or how do you guys decided to share the cake?
Yeah, so when we started, it was like a pretty clear delineation where I was owning everything he was owning everything on the technical side, I was owning everything else, and we sort of split the product responsibilities where I owned the problem half of the equation and he owned the solution half of the equation. And that was, roughly how we did things for a number of years. I love my co-founder to death. He's like a really great guy and a brilliant cryptographer. The company got to a certain point several years in where he felt like he wanted to go and do something else based on the way things had evolved. And so he's since gone and done that. It's just me now, along with a great CTO whom we hired about a year ago.
Now, when you decided to have started a company, Did you knew you want to have a partner, or you were trying to figure out, was this person that you hired, or not hired, sorry, partner with, was a friend? What was the process? Because many people have ideas, and some of them has ideas as a CEO, and they're looking for a technical person. And I know it's very hard to find, and even more harder to trust someone.
Yeah. I was probably for two reasons. I was like pretty set on having a co-founder. One, I'd sort of like internalized this idea that that's the right thing to do. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but that was sort of like my point of view. Probably the more pressing reason was I really wanted to be in developer tools and infrastructure. And I knew that this is whatever, 5 or 6 years ago, I definitely was not going to be able to build that stuff myself at the time. I'm a technical person. I've been in technical industries my entire life, but I'm not a programmer day to day. And so it definitely was not going to be me, slinging together, the first set of the whatever, like the first CLI that we shipped as an example. And so I paired up with Sam, my former co-founder, because he had a really complementary set of expertise in security and cryptography.
Great. So you guys partnering with someone. Next step, you need to hire people. Are you hiring people? Are you looking for customers? Are you doing the work by yourself?
Oh, man. So let's think. In terms of order of operations, we started working together, and part of how we started working together was me lining up customer meetings for us to go and pressure test some ideas against. And we did this even before I had left my full-time job. So it was a lot of customer meetings. And then I would say after maybe 2 or 3 months of that, we started fundraising. At the time, my barometer for like good customer validation was really awful. And I don't know if that was just me not being honest with myself or really just having a bad barometer, but we went out, raised a seed round, mostly based on our resumes with this idea. And then I would say the next 6 months were really, really challenging because it turned out no one wanted the thing that we were building, and it took me a long time to either realize that or admit that to myself.
My mind going to many different directions. So let's talk about raising money first. You mentioned this
Sure.
like you going to a Starbucks and getting a latte, but for many people, raising money is not so simple. So walk me through the steps and how hard it was. And later on, when you needed to pivot, you needed to explain probably to your people why you're pivoting, I'm guessing as well.
Yeah. I I have to say raising money has been the absolute easiest part of this whole thing. And I don't think that's because I'm like God's gift to fundraising. I think it's just been a favorable environment for people like me to raise money in the last 5 years. Like I said, I raised based on my resume. It's not like I had such an amazing pitch, I think, or, we didn't even end up pursuing the original idea from our first, that we were pitching in our first round. I think it was just, people looked at us on paper and, hey, here's this guy who was part of the early team at Mongo and had this whatever rise, that was me. And then they had my co-founder who's a PhD in cryptography. It's like, wow, this is a really fundable group of founders. I literally had a VC say that to someone. You guys are really fundable on paper. And so I think it was just, between that and then getting Sequoia to do the first round. After that, everyone wants to invest alongside Sequoia. So that just makes everything easier. The hardest part by far, I mean, I can talk to you about the process there, but all in all, I would say it was not the hardest part.
Fair, fair. So you guys got money now. Now you're hiring people. Let's go there.
Yeah.
How do you hire people? How do you decide there are good people? What kind of people you're hiring? Do you want the A players? Do you want the drivers? Do you want the passengers? Like go-getters, everybody's a bit different, but I
Yeah.
think from what I see, everybody wants team players.
Yeah. So, man, it took me 175 interviewers to hire the first 5 people. If that tells you anything about how not great I was at it in the beginning, at least. I think there were a few reasons why, a few things that we struggled with. I came from a company, MongoDB, where we had like extremely high standards and spoke a lot internally about recruiting and recruiting only people at the highest levels and stuff like this. The problem, and I would say this is the first of a number of mistakes that I made like this, is that was when we had a company with a big brand and lots of people loved us and we were doing, whatever, tens of millions in revenue. It's like you can command those types of, you can hold that kind of bar. All of a sudden now I'm like Graham and my co-founder, and we barely have a website and no one knows who we are, what the heck we do. And I wasn't recruiting people from MongoDB at the time. So it was people that I didn't know. And it was really hard to attract like the top top players, across all dimensions, because these are people who could easily go to a company that's slightly less, slightly more de-risked, or a founder that's a second or their third time starting the company or whatever. And so to come back and answer your question, I had in mind a very clear set of things that I wanted. It's like, we want people who are not job hoppers, who have had a company, who've been in the company for a specific amount of time at least, who have this kind of experience, who want to behave like owners and not just be, coding all day, and like all these different things. And I would say that was really, really hard. We ended up changing certain things in order to make the plan work. Like we got comfortable with hiring people who were earlier in their careers than we had originally wanted. There's like a bunch of different changes that we made, but even just attracting really great people was actually quite hard in the beginning because, we were a no-name company.
So you did so many interviews. You could probably write a small book on this part. For the people listening to us right now, is there like a one or two questions that can find fluff, that find that somebody is full of shit, excuse my French?
I don't know if I have a question for that. I can tell you a couple other questions that I think would sort of get at like something similar. A question that I've asked people many times is like, tell me about the thing in your career that you are most proud of. And like the first level answer to that may not be that interesting, but if you push on the person, you can often find something interesting. So let me think, like, if you ask a person, tell me about the thing that you're most proud of, and they talk about, let's say it's a salesperson, they talk about some deal that they won. You can find out why that deal. Is it because it was a big deal? Is it because they found the deal? Is it because they corralled a bunch of people to work together as a team to close the deal? But you're sort of like narrowing in on like, what does this person actually care about? And I think that's the most important thing at a startup, is like you can have people with all kinds of like levels of capability and skills and knowledge and all this other stuff, but really it's so freaking hard to make a startup successful that what matters is finding people who really, really care. And so a lot of what I've been doing in interviews over the last, 5 or 6 years is just trying to find out who actually cares.
And I'm guessing stuff changed for the last few years when the company grew. It's become easier to hire people or attract new
Oh,
people
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
of course. Now we're like, oh, we have customers, we have logos, we have this, we have that. Now all of a sudden we're not a no name, and each one of those was non-trivial. Like going from zero to having 5 customers was like a really big change for us in terms of our ability to recruit.
Do you believe in using AI for hiring people?
In what way?
Interviewing, questionnaires, saving time, like go talk to AI. AI will give me the answers about you, and then I will talk to you.
Mm, I think for the like maybe for some of the technical stuff, I think that can be okay. For the
Soft skills.
interpersonal stuff, for the interpersonal stuff, it makes not a ton of sense to me. Because so much of what I'm trying to do is like use my own EQ to understand what's like going on for the person. I guess I don't know. There might be a way to do that with AI, but I haven't found it yet.
Fair, fair. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't even know if we want to be there yet, because the personal connection is a personal connection. We want to kind of feel the person, understand if there is a connection between us. Would we work together, and how would
Yes.
you react after 20 hours of day work if the customer
Yes.
has a problem? What would you do? Would you scream, or would
Yeah.
you continue working? Oh, guide me,
Yeah.
tell me I'm done. Interesting. So, company growing, you guys have a product.
Yes.
You found what you want to go. What was
Yes.
the time or what happened that you realize, okay, this is the direction, this is where I need to go? Maybe it's got a customer story. You don't have to mention the customer, of course, but I want to understand that you have like a light bulb, like, okay, this is the direction. We are doing something right.
Uh, no. I don't. And I feel like this was one of the harder parts of it, is like I had in my mind this idea that it would be product market fit would be this like binary thing that I would know and I would see it. And it's like what all these other founders have told me, oh, when you see it, blah, 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 and you can feel it, blah, 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 and it's the pull, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I feel like it's quite not so binary and not so static. That is to say, like, there's a spectrum of product market fit from, hey, I think I could sell this, to like, I have people that are knocking down my door, coming to me and trying to buy this. And there's a sort of dynamicism to it where like, there are companies today like Retool and Airtable, which were absolutely like off the chain 4 years ago. And now, because of AI, the dynamics have really changed and they're having a harder time. To make a long story short, no, I don't think there was one particular moment. It was like a series of like events that happened over time that gave us more and more confidence as we went.
So I'm gonna go different there. A customer come and ask, "Hey, I would like to have this. You don't have this capability.
Yeah.
Do you say, yes, Mr. Customers, definitely we have it, and you go develop it? Or say, no, Mr. Customer, this is amazing, great, but we don't have it right now. If you buy the product, we'll develop it in 6 months. Like what is your take on this? Chicken and egg.
At Oso, we're like a fairly customer-driven organization in terms of how we think about product. And so this is definitely relevant for us. If there were ever something that like didn't exist and someone wanted to buy it, I would never be dishonest with them about whether or not it exists. I might change the way that we position it from, hey, that thing, there's definitely a difference between if you sign, I will build it in 6 months versus like, yeah, we should have that in the next couple weeks. I think a lot of this is a little bit dependent on the industry that we're in. So being at the intersection of like security and infrastructure, no one wants to be the guinea pig. So you telling them like, if you join, then I will build it. And they're like, cool, then I'm going to be your guinea pig and I'm going to be the one dealing with all the bugs. And like, wait, no one else has tried this. And so I would say that's like a dynamic that I underappreciated before starting this company is like how much on the one hand, everyone like the lore in like Silicon Valley is to like build stuff cheap and quick and put it in front of people. And I think that sort of works. But for more complex technical products, like buyers can really sniff out if the thing doesn't totally exist yet. And so if that's really true, the best thing is to be straightforward about it.
So what do you think about work-life balance in this case? Is this exist? Is this a myth? Or maybe it is in one way or another?
I can't comment for anyone else. In fact, for all of these things, I should say they're really just for me. And I feel like I've gotten all kinds of advice that really made no sense for me over the years. So this is just for me. For me, in the traditional sense, and I think different people have different ideas of what work-life balance means. But when I hear it, I think something that's not going to be a fit for a startup. To me, usually what that means is like someone who has like really strong boundaries and expectations around free time. And part of what you need at a startup is flexibility. And so that means not necessarily just like shutting your laptop at a specific point in time because maybe you get pinged about something later that's really time sensitive or important. And speed matters a lot. This is a really long-winded explanation. It's not for me, put it that way.
Sure. Okay, so when something goes wrong and you have a very bad day, what do you personally do to kind of get back? Like to get back on the horse? So do you meditate, work out, go for a run, spend time with the family?
Yeah. I wish spending time with my family would help me with that. I find if I'm with my family and I had a bad day, I just wind up being distracted. And so there's like maybe two or three things that I found to be somewhat helpful here. Although I also would not claim that I have like a silver bullet. It's often the case that I have a bad day and then I'm really distracted for the rest of the day. But I have, in the last 6 months, I've started meditating, which has been super helpful. Probably the most effective thing though is exercise.
Agree, agree.
Yeah.
So talking about bad days, let's talk about bad days. Tell me
Sure.
bad days. Tell me like stories that went really bad. Of course, we're not mentioning customers, we're not mentioning people, but tell me some like things that you didn't expect. People, customers meeting, outcomes that really derailed you for the day or some time. Or even maybe even you're like, okay, I want to close the company. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's like, I mean, I'll give you a few different examples. Speaking of a time when I had a bad day and then I was grumpy for the whole day. So when we pitched Sequoia for our seed round, I want to say it was like a Monday or a Tuesday. And I remember thinking, wow, that meeting went so poorly, like so bad. And I was really, really annoyed with myself. And I was thinking, wow, this was like our shot to blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and then at midnight that night or something, our partner at Sequoia emailed us and he's like, yeah, we'd like to work together. But for that whole day, I remember my wife in particular saying like I was so grumpy and so challenging to be around. Um, and so I think, I don't know, why do I bring that up? I feel like that story is like a microcosm of like everyday experience in the life of a founder, which is that there's like every decision, every event feels like it's like relatively consequential. raising money from Sequoia or not. That feels like a big deal. And then the next thing is like the candidate that you really want to land. And that feels like a really big deal. And if you don't land them, that's going to suck. And then after that, it's like your first customer. Your first customer is so important. You have to make that happen. It's like every little thing. And I feel like a lot of what the experience has been for me is trying to figure out how to stay sane through all of that.
The unknown part, it's actually very dear to my heart as well. Yes. When it's the unknown part and you're waiting for an answer, it is very hard for me as well. So I hear you. It is interesting because it's not easy to deal with, and you need to kind of learn to let go and go with this. So after 6 years of being a founder, and if you can go back to yourself and kind of recommend something, what would you recommend to yourself 5, 6 years ago?
I think I spent too much. This is going to be kind of weird. I spend too much time sort of like reading about being a founder and trying to learn from others about being a founder. And I understand that's sort of like, it's a bit meta because that's kind of the conversation that we're having. But I feel like I spent a lot of time churning through conflicting pieces of advice. It's like for every piece of advice that you can get on the internet about building a startup, you can find a perfectly valid counter argument that someone else is making. It's like, raise money when you can. Fundraising is a distraction. Listen to your customers. They'll only ask for faster horses. Like, all of these things. And so I spent all this time reading and kind of like getting myself wound up about were we doing things in a good way or in the right way. And in hindsight, I probably should have just ignored most of that stuff and tried to like figure out what would work for me personally as a leader. And it's really as I've figured that out in the last like few years that I've gotten more comfortable and I think more capable.
Basically, trust yourself more and go
Yeah.
with the flow.
Yeah.
I like the advice. I like the
Yeah.
advice. Graham, thank you very much. Very fun episode. Learned a lot. I like your energy. I like where you guys taking the company. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.